Hello and welcome. Today I want to give a review of this cable railing system that you see here behind me. I bought this off of Amazon from a company called Muzata, but it appears that the same stuff is sold by a bunch of companies. So if you buy it on Amazon, it may come by a different name, but it's probably the same stuff. So today I'm going to talk about my feelings about it, some problems that I ran into that I think you'll probably run into as well, and ultimately my overall review of it. So let's get started. So first off, I'm going to put links down below to all of the specific products that I used. So if you have any questions when this is done, you can either post them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer those, or you can click on those links and perhaps that will answer any other questions that you have. So this is what I bought. This is 21 feet of straight railing, so installation wise this is about as easy as it gets. This cost me about $1,000 all in with everything, including the tool that you need to do it. The first thing that I noticed when I took these posts out of the box is that at the bottom they come to a plate. They should make a T, and that plate has holes in it. That's what you bolt to down to your deck. Now, what I noticed is those weren't level, and I could tell by setting them on the ground, and they should stay put, but instead they rocked around quite a bit. And one of them, if you just looked at it, if you looked at the bottom, you could tell it was bent by quite a bit. So I had to shim all of my posts. And I don't know if they were flat, if it would have made installation any easier or not, but that is something that I noticed. So the fasteners that I actually used for the cable itself, mine look like this, and these are their hidden fasteners. And these are nice because you don't have to crimp a cable. It just goes in here and then you screw in these they're like little screws, but they don't have heads. I don't know what they're called, but there's 3 of these in each end, and it holds it pretty well. So that part is good. But I ran into a couple problems with this. And the first is that once you stick your cable in here and you tighten these down, you have a really hard time tightening them down all the way. I've stripped a couple of Allen wrenches trying to get these things in. But even when they're tight, most of the time they're not in far enough to fit through the holes that are in my posts. So what I've had to do on most of them is I have to take a metal file and I have to file them the rest of the way down so that they'll fit through the holes in the post. And that's not a big deal because this whole thing goes inside the post, so you don't have to be real careful about what it looks like. You can just hack away at it and it files off pretty easy. But you do have to do that or they won't go through these holes. And that's probably only an issue if you have the metal posts like I do. The other thing that I found, the first mistake that I made, is that you can put the cable through, it'll go through too far. So on my first one of these that I did, I wasn't able to screw this in all the way as far as I needed it to because it would run into the end of the cable. So to prevent that, now I screw this in all the way and then I put the cable in, and the cable will stop when it hits the end there. So then you don't have that problem. So these are a little tricky, but you get the hang of it. The other thing that I didn't know is that you need another tool that fits over the end of this. It looks like a T and it locks onto, it's flat on both sides, so it locks onto that and it fits around the cable. So that's another tool. It costs about $33. You have to have it. I didn't have it to begin with, and I tried to grab this with pliers. That just doesn't do it. So you do need to buy that tool. So that slides over here, and then you're able to tighten this in as much as you need in order to get your cable tight. All right, so next we need to talk about how you learn to install all these products. And I found 2 really helpful resources for doing this. The first one are the product listing pages on Amazon. They've got, in their image section, they've got some diagrams that show you how to install things or how they fit together and how they work with the whole lineup of products. So other things that you'll need if you have certain parts. Those are really helpful. So I've linked those below. You should definitely take a look at those. And the second one is Muzata has a YouTube page that has videos about how to install their products. Unfortunately, it doesn't cover all their products, but it covers some of them. And the one that I found particularly helpful is the one on how to join the railing sections. So their sections come in these shorter sections because they have to be able to ship them. So there's a process where you have to join them together, and that uses these plastic blocks that fit inside the railing, and then you put screws into that. So their video teaches you how to do that, and if you need to make angles, anything other than a 90 degree, because you can buy the 90 degree ones, but if you need to make anything else, you actually have to make it out of a straight block. So I thought that video did a really good job of teaching you how to do that. So definitely take a look at that page, and I will put a link to that below as well. All right, so we've made it to the actual review part. Is it worth it? My answer to that is yes and no. And let me explain that. So the only comparisons that I can make is 5 years ago I built this deck, and I hired somebody to custom fabricate the railings for it, which are these ones behind me. Now this deck cost me $10,000 in railings. However, there is a lot more railing in this deck, and it's a lot more complicated. This is 2 levels with 2 staircases and just a lot more feet of railing. So if I'm comparing the Amazon railings with this railing, I think the price per linear foot is pretty close to the same. And I paid somebody to install this. I mean, that was factored in. So that being the case, this railing is much higher quality. Everything about it's thicker. The posts are thicker, the railing's thicker, the cables are thicker. This is a much heavier duty railing. And per linear foot, it's probably about the same price. So you also have to take into account this was 5 years ago that I built this deck, so I don't know if prices are the same anymore. But my recommendation to you is check your local fabricators and see how much they are, because if it's like the case here and you can get a higher quality for the same linear footage, that might be the way to go. However, the yes to that answer is, as far as do-it-yourself railing systems go, the Amazon one is by far the cheapest one I found. I found several websites that offered DIY kits, and they were astronomically expensive. The Amazon kit was, I don't know, probably half the price. Some of those other DIY kits are even way more expensive than what I paid for this deck. So I wouldn't recommend them at all. I mean, I don't have any experience with them, but just based on price alone, forget it. So if you're dead set on doing a DIY, I like the Amazon. Quality and all, prices maybe, but quality's all right, and I think it turned out pretty good. Let me share with you real quick the 2 biggest difficulties with having a custom railing system done like the one behind me. The hardest thing to do was to find somebody who could actually show up and do it. I called a lot of companies, and except for the guy that I hired, they were all more than a year out. So no one was going to show up to do my deck until at least the next summer. That's probably still true, maybe more so thanks to COVID. So that might be a real difficulty still. And number 2 was having this built actually took 4 times longer than the guy told me it was going to take. And the reason for that was mistakes kept happening, and every time a mistake happens, he has to refabricate it. All the parts have to go to the powder coater again, and the powder coater is backed up, and it just keeps compounding. So I actually didn't get my railings in until well into winter time. Like I said, it was 4 times longer than he told me it would take. So those are problems that you will still run into, and for those reasons, that's what makes a DIY solution so attractive. Of course, if you buy the parts through Amazon, they're going to be on your porch in a couple days, free shipping, and then you can install them whenever you have time. So that's my opinion. So if you learned something, if you like this video, please hit the subscribe button. That would help me out. Thank you very much.